Part 63. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 621. Wang Feng had just entered the Blue Water Garden when he suddenly turned back again, looked at those people and asked. You know the Devourer, right? Lu Hongtao and the others looked at each other, and then nodded together. Then I'm telling you news that the date of their arrival has been advanced. In 40 days, they will arrive on our planet and appear in front of us at any time, so, you'd better move quickly, otherwise, even if I gave you the medicine, but you don't have time to use it. After saying that, Wang Feng turned his head again and left. Watching Wang Feng and the others leave, Lu Hongtao and others who were standing there looked at each other. Didn't they say that there is still more than half a year? Why did it suddenly become 40 days? Because Duan Lei told them before that every time they use a bottle of potion, they need to go through an awakening period of about 10 days. In other words, even if they get the potion, it will take them 10 to 20 days before they can use it. Those potions are truly converted into combat power. And it will take a few days to adapt to your own strength. In other words, the sentence often used by a certain football team on the earth just applies to them now. There is not much time left for them. Commander, what should we do? Cai Jianren was the first to ask. Yes. Commander, what should we do? Yes. The leader of the Hope Base made it very clear that we must get an explanation that satisfies him. Humph. What do you mean? It just wants us to. Everyone was talking at once, and the last person suddenly closed his mouth mid-sentence, and then looked at Lu Hongtao expectantly. Everyone else stopped talking and stared at Lu Hongtao like that man. Every one of them heard what Wang Feng said when he left, and in fact, every one of them knew what Wang Feng wanted to say. They were even sure that when Lu Hongtao sent someone to force Lu Fei away just now, Wang Feng must have seen him. After all, he was so high in the sky, with candles lit on the ground, and Lu Fei's position was so obvious. How could it be possible? Can't see. It's just that people are too lazy to take action against such a little guy, or they have just established such a huge power, so they don't want to deal with the dude immediately. But no matter what, Lu Fei violated other people's taboos, especially the last scene of fireworks, which directly paired other people's women with him. These people are all human beings. They don't even need to put themselves in someone else's shoes. They know what Wang Feng wants to say. It's obvious that they have only one way to go now. And Lu Fei has only one way, death. Lu Fei must die, and only his head can calm Wang Feng's anger. This is the answer everyone gives in their hearts. Looking at the eyes of the people around him looking at him, Lu Hongtao suddenly felt strange. Are these people really the same people who were obedient to him before and swore allegiance to him to the death? Looking at their expectant eyes, Lu Hongtao understood that they were all waiting for him to speak, but, how could he speak? Do you want to personally order that your own grandson, the last member of the Lu family, be captured and killed, and then send the body to the man who calls himself Wang Feng? You, what are you doing? Sci-Fi is still a child. When he sees you, he calls you uncle and uncle. Some of you even watched him grow up with your own eyes. How can you bear it? Kill a child who doesn't understand anything. His father is already dead, and you still want to take away my grandson? No. I absolutely disagree. No one can hurt Xiao Fei. At most, we wait here. When they come out tomorrow, we will beg again he's fine. There are so many of us, why should he be worried? Moreover, we can also blackmail them. If they don't give us the medicine, we will take back those survivors who belong to us. Lu Hongtao said with tears streaming down his face. However, his appearance did not arouse the sympathy of others, but their eyes changed from expectation to contempt and indifference. Old Commander. I am your old subordinate. As you just said, I watched Xiao Fei grow up. An old general wearing the rank of Major General said. Yes, yes. Xiao Li. Tell everyone, we can't hurt Xiao Fei if we use other methods. Lu Hongtao quickly grabbed the general's arm and said, as if grasping a life-saving straw. The general named Li shook his head, then pulled Lu Hongtao's hand away from his arm, sighed and said. Old commander. It's because I watched Xiao Fei grow up that I know that Xiao Fei, he actually died a long time ago. Before the end of the world, how many people died because of him? How many families were broken because of him? If nothing else, just tell me the last thing you asked me to do before the end of the world. You personally ordered me to resolve that matter, so I remember very clearly that Xiao Fei was at the bar and saw a beautiful female student selling beer, so he dragged her into a private room. Not only did Xiao Fei play by yourself, and let your friends take turns. Later, when they were done, they kicked the girl out. They also left photos of the time and threatened her not to call the police. But the girl hid aside and prepared to avenge herself, but was killed by Xiao Fei himself. Later, his parents refused to accept the money you asked me to send because they didn't agree to divorce. In the end, you gave an order and asked me to arrange for them to suffer an accidental death in a car accident. For the sake of your family's only child, you let me ruin a family. 3 things like this have passed through my hands and helped you handle, and nearly 30 lives have been lost. Your Sci-Fi is an only seedling, but other people's ones are not. Your grandson is a grandson, are other people's beasts. At this point, General Li raised his hands and looked down blankly. Back then, I joined the army to fight the enemy and serve the country. But under your guidance, these hands only killed 1 enemy on the battlefield, but it killed 30. I once solemnly swore that I would use my youth and life to protect the people of the 3 kingdoms. 10 innocent people died unjustly. If I had known this would be the result before joining the army, I would never have joined the army, because my ideal soldier should be like them. Having said this, General Li pointed at the Hope warriors who were still standing upright at the sentry post, guarding the clear water garden. They are the soldiers, and we are the scum in the army. Originally, I thought that my heart was numb and I was used to this kind of life. Even after the end of the world, in our Tiandu city base, I saw civilians starving to death every day, but we still had flowers to decorate the table. They can all accept it with peace of mind. Because at that time, I felt that I had already fallen. Since my hands were full of blood, I didn't care about a little more. Therefore, I felt that I could continue to play the role of the devil. But when I came here today and saw the old people, women, and children who had just come out to watch the fireworks, and saw them looking at the leader with admiration and gratitude on their faces, and cheering him with tears in their eyes, I suddenly realized when General Li said this, he was already in tears. If I wasn't so cowardly and didn't dare to resist your first order, and therefore went further and further, and finally became what I am now. Perhaps, I could have protected the people and fulfilled my responsibilities. Afterwards, I got such cheers. Even if there is only 1 person, I am content. At least, I can say that I am worthy of the military uniform on my body and the rank of Major General on my shoulders. And now, I have earned this military rank with the lives of nearly 30 ordinary people, 30 innocent lives, and 30 lives that I was supposed to protect. This military rank, like me, is not worthy of this military uniform. Unfortunately, I woke up too late. After saying that, General Li took off his military rank on his shoulders and threw it on the ground. Then he unbuttoned and took off his entire military uniform. After that, he stacked the uniforms neatly. His expression was so focused, as if what he was holding was not an ordinary military uniform, but a sacred handicraft. After the general's uniform was folded, General Li took off his military cap and placed it on top of his uniform. Then, he held up the military uniform with a solemn expression and walked to the sentry. He bent down and carefully put his military uniform on. Placed on the sentry stand. After all this, General Lee slowly straightened up, then stood at attention, and saluted his military uniform and the Hope soldier standing on the sentry post with a solemn military salute. Although he only had a pair of military green shorts on his body at this time, this military salute still looked solemn and sacred. The Hope warriors standing guard had heard their words before. Now, he lowered his head and looked at the neatly folded military uniform, then raised his head and looked at the old man in front of him who was only wearing a pair of shorts. Smiled lightly. After that, the contempt and disdain in the eyes of this warrior of hope disappeared, and his expression became solemn. He slowly raised his right arm and gave the veteran a standard military salute. At the moment when the soldiers saluted him, tears suddenly burst out of General Lee's eyes. He barely controlled himself to prevent himself from crying. After a while, he squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. "Thanks." Then, General Lee suddenly put down his arm, turned around and walked back. At the same time, he handed the pistol he had just left from his left hand to his right hand. "If I have another life, I will still serve as a soldier, and I will definitely make myself worthy of the military uniform." General Lee looked at Lu Hongtao and said softly, but that last sentence was shouted out with almost all his strength. Bang! With a dull gunshot, General Lee's body fell heavily to the ground. He looked up to the sky, and red blood flowed from his temples. However, his somewhat cloudy eyes did not close, they just looked straight. Looking at the pure starry sky. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 622. Looking at the dead body on the ground, everyone present at the Tiandu city base lost their voices, all lowering their heads and thinking silently. After a while, a man walked out automatically and came to the body of General Li. He silently saluted the body with a military salute, and then began to unbutton and take off his military uniform with a dull expression. 2, 3, 4. At the end, not counting General Li, a total of 14 people stood up, took off their military uniforms, and placed them on the sentry post. If the sentry box could not be placed, they placed it on the ground next to the sentry post. In the end, these 14 people did not shoot themselves directly like General Li did. Instead, they came to General Lee's body, lifted his body, and walked out together, leaving the Hope base. As for where they went, no one knows, because since then, no one has seen their people, or their bodies. After these people disappeared from everyone's sight, the remaining people looked at each other. One of them sighed and said softly, "Let's go. Let's do what we should do." This person was the major general who first met Meng Fei, Li's Hixiang. After saying this, Li's Hixiang turned around and left. The rest of the people shook their heads and followed him. Only 4 people still stayed with Lu Hongtao. Li's Hixiang. "What are you doing? We can still." Lu Hongtao felt something was wrong and shouted at the backs of those people with some despair. Li's Hixiang turned around and directly interrupted Lu Hongtao. "Old commander, don't think about using the survivors who came from us to threaten the Hope base. Do you think, even if they agree, those survivors will be willing to go back with us now? Although I haven't seen their living conditions here, I dare to bet you with everything that they live a better life here than we do. Do you think we have the ability to take them all away? Now we have only one way to go, and you know which way it is." After saying that, Li's Hixiang turned and left. Behind him, a person who left with him looked at Lu Hongtao, shook his head and said, "Old commander, we can't risk all of our lives because of your grandson, so." The man turned and left without finishing his words. Watching these people leave, Lu Hongtao seemed to have aged dozens of years in an instant, and his straight spine had become rickety. "Old Lu, what should we do? Are we going back?" An old man of similar age to Lu Hongtao next to Lu Hongtao asked. What are you going back for? Lu Hongtao shook his head. When they go back, they will definitely tell everything about what happened here. Do you think there will be someone on my side to help me save Xiaofei? It's gone. It's all gone. My son is gone, and so is my grandson. Ha 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 ha. Unexpectedly, many people cursed me before, saying that I would cut off my descendants. Now it seems that they were right. Ha ha. Me too, Xiaolin is dead, and I am just myself. If we don't go back, where will we go? The old man asked. Let's go. Let's get out of here. Even if we die, we can't die here. Lu Hongtao looked at the Bishui garden and said, and then the two people supported each other and slowly left the Bishui garden. The remaining three people looked at each other in confusion. They originally thought that although Lu Hongtao's grandson could not be saved, at least Lu Hongtao's position could be saved. Since those people killed his grandson and gave it to the Hope Base to calm Wang Feng's anger, they would definitely not make things difficult for Lu Hongtao anymore. Moreover, the person who left with Lu Hongtao was the second in command at their Tiandu city base, and he did not go back now. If these two old men did not go back, then they would naturally have no intention of continuing to follow them. But just now they did not leave with those who left before, and if they catch up now, those people may not accept them. These three guys who originally wanted to show their loyalty and hug each other were a little dumbfounded. One of them, about 50, looked smarter. He turned his head and looked at the Bishui garden. Suddenly he seemed to have thought of something, so he walked towards the Hope Warrior. Ha ha. Hello, little brother. I want to join your Hope Base, but I don't know what the procedures are. This guy said to the Hope Warrior with a smile on his face, because he suddenly remembered that even those guys from the outer city before could join the Hope Base, so of course he, as an evolver, was more qualified to join. And that Wang Fei who could fly just now, wasn't right? It's Wang Feng, didn't he say that too? The Hope Base will prepare for war immediately, and all members will be able to get their own potions. In other words, if you join the Hope Base, you can get the awakening potions without any effort. Seeing this guy's actions, the other two also reacted and quickly ran over and said, Yes, yes. We want to join too. And one of the guys who had reached the strength of the Awakener asked directly, Little brother, I am already an awakened person. In our Hope Base, is there any potion that can enhance the strength of an awakened person? The Hope Warrior looked at the three people with contempt. He had seen the release from beginning to end. He still had some respect for General Li, although what he did before was not human, at least he came to his senses in the end. But these three people were completely fence-sitters. They would rely on whoever they saw was good. Now that they found that none of them could be trusted, they actually came to the Hope Base again. Especially the Awakener, as if he had already joined the Hope Base, he actually started asking if there was any potion to improve his strength. Humph. People like you. We don't want you in the Hope Base. The Hope Warrior snorted coldly. Although he was just a soldier in the Hope Base, he didn't even bother to ask the people inside about such things. It was disgusting enough for him to let such people join the Hope Base. Hey? You're just a sentry. Do you think you're a high-ranking official? Whether we can join the Hope Base is not up to you. That's right, a soldier. What kind of leader are you? You can represent the Hope Base? When I enter the Hope Base and get the promotion potion, my rank will definitely be higher than yours. You'd better be polite to me. That's right. Little guy, leave a way out for me. I hope to see you in the future. Forget it. Open the door and let us in. We will talk to your leader in person. You can't make the decision on this matter. Seeing that this Hope Warrior directly rejected the three of them, the three guys were not very satisfied immediately. The flattering smile on their faces disappeared, and they frowned and taught this Hope Warrior a lesson. Hearing what the three said, This Hope warrior felt even more disgusted. He directly resumed his standing position and simply ignored them. Hey? Didn't you hear what I said? I asked you to open the door. The awakened person said again, who knew that this Hope warrior ignored him at all, as if he didn't hear it at all. Tisk. A sentry is so arrogant, what's so great about that? Isn't he still standing here in the middle of the night? Don't worry about him, he ignores us, let's go knock on the door ourselves, and when the people inside come out, we will talk to them. That's right. I don't believe that there are no reasonable people in the Hope base. Those untouchables from the outer city can join, why can't we? This is not fair at all. Well, let's go. Knock on the door. As they said, the three guys stepped forward and prepared to walk towards the gate of the Green Water Garden. Don't cross the cordon, otherwise you will be shot. The Hope warrior reminded coldly. Ah! The three of them were stunned for a moment, and then looked at the yellow line drawn on the ground in front of them. What should we do? The three of them gathered together and discussed in a low voice. I don't see anyone else. If we cross the line, this sentry might shoot us, right? Yes. This door is so high. Even if there are people inside, they won't have a shooting angle as long as we run to the door, so we just need to keep an eye on this sentry. Or I think we should just forget it and leave. You are an awakener, why are you more timid than us? Do you think it's safe if there are no zombies outside? Didn't you hear that the Devourer will come in 40 days? If you don't find a place, you'll die. Yes. The leader of this base is so awesome that he can fly. It must be safe here. At worst, we can knock on the door and say we don't want potions. We can even help them farm for free. They will definitely want us. Farming? That's a job for inferior people. Idiot. Stay here first, are you afraid that you won't have a chance in the future? If you go out, you'll be dead. Okay. Then I'll go and hold the sentry, and you two go and knock on the door. Don't look at me like that, I'm not a coward this time. I'm the only awakener, can you two stop the sentry? That guy is also an awakener. Okay, okay. Then you go. But be sure to stop him, don't let the sentry shoot. Got it? Go quickly. After the discussion, the awakener came to the sentry again and said with a grin. Can I ask you something without going in? Just when he came to the sentry, the other two evolvers suddenly activated their superpowers and rushed directly to the gate of the Green Water Garden. Bang! Bang! After 2 gunshots, 2 headless bodies fell on the yellow line, their heads had been directly shattered by 2 seriously injured bullets. The awakened person heard the gunshot and turned around to see that the 2 guys who had just talked to him had turned into corpses, and their deaths were horrible. He was so scared that he turned around and ran away. Murder! Help! The miserable voice continued to echo in the night sky. Bang! The roar of the seriously injured sounded again, and then the entrance of the Green Water Garden returned to peace. Only the Hope warrior was still standing upright on the sentry post, and around him, there were 15 sets of neatly stacked military uniforms. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 623. Duan Lei and others inside the club naturally didn't know what was happening outside. Even the roar of the severely injured sniper rifle just now did not make them react at all, because now they were listening intently to Wang Feng's story after leaving. Experience. Lu Wanting was still tired of Wang Feng's body and refused to get off. She didn't care at all that there were so many people watching around her, because she now knew that in 40 days, the Devourer might appear in front of them at any time. Thinking that the time he had spent with Wang Feng was less than 40 days, and during these 40 days, Wang Feng would definitely be busy running around. Maybe he would not even be able to spend 4 days with him. So now Lu Wanting is not willing to be separated from Wang Feng for even a moment. Wang Feng naturally knew this, so he kept Lu Wanting in his arms. Madman! Is what you just said to Lu Hongtao true? After entering the club, Duan Lei hurriedly asked before he could sit down. This matter was the most important to him. Because Duan Lei's previous plans for the Hope Base were based on the expectation that the Devourer would not appear until half a year later. Now that it was so far in advance, his strategy had to be changed accordingly. After holding Lu Wanting and sitting in a chair, Wang Feng adjusted his posture so that both of them were more comfortable. Sitting is more comfortable, not doing is more comfortable. Wang Feng looked at the people around him and sighed softly. He took a breath and said, "That's right. It's true, and these 40 days were obtained by number 7 using his life to help us fight for it. If number 7 hadn't been there, maybe the one who appears in front of you today would not be me, but Swallow with the army." Afterwards, Wang Feng told everyone present about his experience after leaving, and introduced Chris and Johnny to everyone. "Madman! Send someone to bring my equipment back now." As soon as Chris was introduced to everyone, Chris said that although Wang Feng had performed very powerfully just now, Chris was most concerned about his instruments. The instrument was too big, so when Wang Feng and the others landed, they just dragged it ashore and placed it next to Xiao Song. Anyway, there were 2 mutant beasts in the sea, and there was definitely no danger with Xiao Song on the shore. Good. Wang Feng nodded. He also knew that if he didn't get the instrument back, Chris might not be able to sleep tonight, so he nodded in agreement, and then looked at Lu Qiang. "Big man. You arrange a team of Hope Warriors and ask them to help Chris bring his instruments back, and then leave 20 people behind to help Chris." "Good." Lu Qiang nodded, and then took Chris out. Because Lu Qiang left, Wang Feng did not rush to tell his previous experience, but looked at Duan Lei. "I hope there haven't been any changes in the base recently, right?" "Absolutely. It's just that there are a lot more people. Everything else was decided before you left. Although there are some changes, it's nothing major," Duan Lei said. "But I'm curious. You just said that you hope all members of the base can get their own medicine. Is this true or false? Are there so many?" "Of course, no problem." Wang Feng waved his hand. Because of the harvest in Bizhu continent, Wang Feng's apocalypse can now produce nearly 20 million awakening potions. The Hope Base only has 10 million people. Even if it is more, it cannot reach 20 million. Bar. But as soon as the words came out, Wang Feng suddenly became light and sluggish. Because he suddenly remembered that when he asked Duan Lei and Lu Hongtao what they were doing outside, Duan Lei seemed to have told him that the Tiandu city base used a large population to exchange medicines with the Hope Base. The inner one. Looking at Duan Lei, Wang Feng asked cautiously, "What is the total population of our Hope Base, now?" "Less than 40 million. Duan Lei's answer was quite concise. "I'm going." Wang Feng almost fainted. "Less than 40 million? So there are more than 30 million? Of course Wang Feng didn't know. This was because more than 15 million people slipped away halfway in advance because they didn't know the situation of the Hope Base. Otherwise, the current population of the Hope Base should be more than 50 million. But you don't have to worry. Those new survivors are not yet members of the Hope Base, because the original agreement with the Tiandu city base was to let them work here and earn enough points to exchange for the medicine they need. Then these are the people we want to base." Duan Lei said funnily when he saw Wang Feng's look. How many people are there over there?" Wang Feng asked quickly. He was now concerned about the number of people. "More than 25 million. Duan Lei's answer made Wang Feng breathe a sigh of relief. It was more than 25 million. If you remove this number, it would only be more than 10 million. His apocalypse points were enough. As for the new survivors, just let them stay at the Hope base and provide them with protection when the Devourer arrives? Madman! Why are you flying? Could it be that the seal was released? Looking at Wang Feng, Du Enlai finally couldn't help but ask what everyone present wanted to know. Because Lu Feng and other real Corps members are now on the expedition with the Guardian Corps, the only people who really have no scruples with Wang Feng are Du Enlai, Lu Qiang, and Lu Wanting. Lu Qiang went out to arrange things, and Lu Wanting's heart is now on Wang Feng. No matter whether he can fly or not, he is her man anyway, so she has no mind to think about this now. Therefore, the only one who dares to ask this question is Du Enlai. After hearing Du Enlai's question, Lu Wanting raised her head buried in Wang Feng's arms and looked at Wang Feng intently. Obviously, she just remembered this matter and wanted to know the answer. After hearing Du Enlai's question, Wang Feng was confused. He didn't know why he suddenly flew, although what he just did was not considered free flying, but just rushed into the air and hovered there for a long time. But that's it, for humans, it is already considered flying. But Wang Feng couldn't tell whether he had unlocked the seal. He could feel that his strength had indeed broken through. Now that he heard Du Enlai's question, Wang Feng remembered and asked in his heart. Tiankai, did you sleep? No. No need to ask, the seal in your body has indeed been broken. You have now reached the peak of the 7th level creature. As long as you get enough life energy, you can break through to the 8th level at any time. Tiankai's voice came, and he was a little depressed now. Since returning to the Hope base, he has been watching what happened outside. Of course, he also saw Wang Feng's great power just now. At that time, Tiankai directly checked Wang Feng's body and was surprised to find that the mysterious seal that originally suppressed Wang Feng's body had disappeared. Tiankai didn't remind Wang Feng just now, and he didn't tell him until Wang Feng asked him, because Tiankai had been looking for the reason. But until now, Tiankai didn't know how Wang Feng unlocked the seal in his body. Is this just dog shit luck? Really unlocked? How did you unlock it? Wang Feng was overjoyed. He didn't expect that he ran around looking for a way to unlock the seal, but in the end he did nothing and unlocked it inexplicably. How the hell should I know? You quickly arrange things, and then tell me everything you just experienced in detail, maybe we can find a way to unlock the seal. Tiankai said unhappily. Okay. Wait a minute. Wang Feng turned to Du Enlai. Xiao Lei. I seem to have unlocked the seal in my body, but I don't know the reason now. When I go back to rest, I will think about it and see if I can find this method. The seal is unlocked. Lu Qiang's voice came. He had just arranged a team of Hope warriors to follow Chris to Jianguan town to move the instrument. Because Xiao Song knew Chris, and Wang Feng had also taken care of Xiao Song before, saying that Chris would bring people to pick it up, so Chris had to go with him, otherwise the Hope warriors alone, although Xiao Song would not attack them, would easily let them take the instrument away. Lu Qiang, who had just returned to the club, happened to hear Wang Feng's words, so he was overjoyed and asked. Well, big guy. I should have unlocked the seal, but I don't know how. Wang Feng said, put this aside for now, and talk about this later. Then, Wang Feng told everyone everything that happened after he left the East Continent, so that they could understand the current situation. When they heard that number 7 was still in the South Continent, delaying the formation of the wormhole, and that there were only 41 days left, everyone's expressions became serious. After telling his own experience, Wang Feng said to Du Enlai. Lazy eye. Now we need to do several things. First, although I have unlocked the seal in my body, before finding a way, Chris's research must be put first. What he needs now is mainly a primate mutant beast, but I don't know if the stronger the better. We will go to find and capture it tomorrow. Second, Send someone to gather the 3 guard corps outside. Time is running out and there is no time to rescue others. We must do our best to protect the Hope Base, but remember to let them catch more primate mutants when they come back. Third. Start collecting blood samples tomorrow, all the official members of the Hope Base, I mean those who have the courage to step onto the battlefield and face the Devourer. Collect the blood of these people, I will make potions to make them all awakened, even if they have no combat experience and cannot form combat power in a short time, but at least they will be a force at that time. Speaking of this, Wang Feng looked around. By the way, where is the instructor? Find him and ask him something. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 624. Now that time is tight, there are only a few main things to do. After explaining, Wang Feng thought of instructor Li Yingning. As a devourer, the prince has lived for such a long time, so he is naturally well informed. Let him take a look, and maybe he can find the secret to unlocking the seal. I'll go. Lu Qiang stood up and went upstairs to find the instructor. Although Li Yingning's identity had been exposed, only some core people knew about it, and the soldiers still didn't know. And by bringing back those warriors who had failed before, Li Yingning's prestige in the Hope Base was once again enhanced, but it also made other warriors more afraid of facing him. So calling Li Yingning was definitely not an easy task for others, so Lu Qiang took the initiative to take over this task. After Lu Qiang left, Wang Feng, Duan Lei, Shen Yishan and others discussed the future development direction of the Hope Base again, and finally finalized all actions within the next month. Duan Lei is currently working on a huge underground project, and is still digging downwards. This is to leave a way out for mankind after the failure of the fight against the Devourer. Although they knew that if they failed, the Devourer would destroy the planet they were on, they still had a glimmer of hope since they had never seen the strength of the Devourer's brood. Duan Lei wants to dig out a hiding spot deep underground. Once the Devourer arrives, he will send some women, children, and teenagers to the deepest hiding spot. In this way, even if their resistance on the ground fails in the end, as long as the planet is not truly destroyed, humans will still have a glimmer of hope to pass on the race. Anyway, it is impossible for these people to go to the battlefield after the Devourer appears, so let them hide first. In this way, even if they fail in the end, they will not be so desperate. Li Yingning came down with Lu Qiang soon. In fact, he should be the first to know about Wang Feng's return. When Xiao Song saw Wang Feng, he got the news. However, Li Yingning knew that there would be a lot of things happening after Wang Feng came back, so he originally thought that Wang Feng would wait until tomorrow to meet him, but he didn't expect that he would have someone come find him in the middle of the night. Instructor. Seeing Li Yingning, Wang Feng let go of Lu Wanting, stood up and saluted Li Yingning with a military salute. Although he knew that he was the Devourer, Wang Feng still regarded him as the previous instructor. Li Yingning nodded slightly, and then asked, "Where's No. 7? As a Devourer, Li Yingning was of course very sensitive to his own kind, so he knew that No. 7 was not in the Blue Water Garden without even looking. No. 7, he. Wang Feng's expression froze, so he told Li Yingning the current situation of No. 7. After hearing this, Li Yingning raised his eyebrows. Space wormhole? That commander actually opened the wormhole? It seems that your planet is very important to the brood. You actually didn't hesitate to waste energy and so many Devourers to build a space wormhole. Li Yingning is the Prince of Devourer, and his understanding of space wormholes is of course far greater than that of No. 7 and Apocalypse. After all, Tiankai is just a clone of Li Yingning's consciousness and cannot master all of Li Yingning's knowledge. By the way, instructor, I have unlocked the seal in my body now. Do you know what is going on? Wang Feng looked at Li Yingning and asked, with a hint of expectation in his eyes. Li Yingning did not speak, but stepped forward and grabbed Wang Feng's wrist. However, he was not checking the pulse, but held Wang Feng's entire wrist in his hand. After a while, Li Yingning nodded and said, "Yes. Your seal has indeed disappeared, but I can't find out the reason. Let me tell you in detail your experience after you came back. Let's start from the time you entered Ganlin County." So Wang Feng told his experience after entering Ganlin County in great detail, including the phantom-like state he entered after seeing the fireworks. Reserve. While Wang Feng was talking, Chris also walked in. He seemed to have something to ask Wang Feng, but he found that he was talking, and it happened that after he saw the fireworks, he looked in a trance, as if he had entered another space. That kind of feeling, so I didn't interrupt, but stood aside and listened. After Wang Feng finished speaking, Li Yingning lowered her head and fell into deep thought, while Chris also looked thoughtful. No one else dared to disturb, including Lu Wanting, who just stood beside Wang Feng honestly, holding his arm with her hand, waiting quietly. "I estimate that the reason you unlocked the seal must be related to your state of mind at the time. However, I haven't experienced this, so I can't say for sure. But starting from this aspect, I might be able to find a way to unlock the seal." Li Yingning frowned and said, "After all, what Wang Feng just said was a bit too mysterious, and for the devourers, their thoughts were not that complicated, so it was difficult to understand." "I see." At this time, Chris on the side suddenly shouted, "Wisdom! It's wisdom!" Everyone looked at Chris inexplicably, not understanding what he was talking about. "Madman! You are telling me your state at that time, when you were watching the fireworks?" Chris looked at Wang Fengdao with excitement. Although Wang Feng also looked confused, he still explained his state at that time. While Wang Feng was talking, Chris picked up a notebook and a pen from the table on one side. No matter whose it was, he tore off the page with the writing on it and threw it away. Then, while listening, draw something on the notebook. When Wang Feng finished speaking, Chris continued to scribble. "Chris! Don't bother me." Wang Feng was about to ask Chris what he had discovered, but was interrupted by Chris yelling, and then continued writing something in the notebook. Everyone looked at each other, but fortunately there was Gu Changsheng as an example, so everyone accepted the fact that as long as he was a doctor, he would have a weird temper, so no one bothered him. After about 40 minutes, Chris finally raised his head, looked around, pulled the desk where his notebook was, and then pushed everything on the desk to the ground. Then tore off the pages he had just drawn, placed them on the table one by one and said, "Look." Everyone looked over curiously, but found that the things drawn on those pieces of paper were similar to ghost drawings. In their eyes, they were just a lot of messy lines and some weird symbols. How could they see anything? Wang Feng was also confused. Any 3-year-old child could draw this thing. "What are you asking us to see?" At this moment, Chris looked at Wang Feng and asked expectantly, "Did you see anything?" "For it." Wang Feng swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and then said carefully, "Yeah. The painting is quite beautiful." "That's not what I said." Chris jumped up, almost furious. "I'm talking about Chris. We are all ordinary people. We can't understand what you drew. You should just say it directly." Wang Feng shook his head and smiled bitterly. "Look. This is the genetic chain of fish." Chris then realized that perhaps only geneticists could understand the things he drew, so he finally looked a little better, and then pointed to the first piece of paper and said, "The second picture is of terrestrial creatures, the third picture is of insects, the fourth picture is of primates, the fifth picture is of humans, the sixth picture is of zombies, and the last picture is yours." Chris hesitated a little at the end, but finally looked at Wang Feng and said it. "Mine? How do you know my genetic chain?" Wang Feng jumped up. "Didn't I want your blood in Zizhu continent?" So of course I know that you are the most powerful human being I have ever seen. Of course I want to study it. Chris said plausibly. Forget it. Just tell me what it means. Wang Feng waved his hands helplessly. Long before the end of the world, I actually proposed that human strength is suppressed by a mysterious force, which prevents human beings from fully displaying their strength. Chris glanced at the people around him and said, I have been studying this mysterious power for a long time. Although I had a guess before, I have never been sure. My previous discovery is that the lower the intelligence of a person, the stronger the physical strength. You mean you have strong limbs but a simple mind, right? Wang Feng couldn't help but say, because he is the strongest among the people present now. If Chris's statement is true, then it means that among these people, he is the most unscrupulous. Don't interrupt me, that's not what I'm talking about. Chris looked serious. Have you ever been to a mental hospital? Almost all the patients there have considerable strength. Even if a female patient goes crazy, it will take several strong men to subdue her. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 625. Because Wang Feng himself said it, Wang Feng said, we know this, so you don't need to give examples. I didn't mean to give an example, and I said so. Don't interrupt me. Chris shouted dissatisfied. You say it, you say it. Wang Feng quickly surrendered and made up his mind that he would never speak again before Chris finished speaking. The sudden burst of power from those people was suppressed by that mysterious force before. It was able to burst out at that time because that person at that time did not direct his body with his thoughts, but with instinct. That is to say, at that time, that person was not thinking at all. His thoughts were at a standstill, so the seal was temporarily weakened or failed, which caused him to explode with such great power. This is why you were able to suddenly unlock the seal. The state your mind was in at that time was a very trance or illusion, half asleep and half awake. I bet you were not thinking about who you were at the time. Why is this happening? Wang Feng nodded, but did not dare to speak. So you were basically in a state of pause in your thoughts at that time. Later, because you had a deep affection for Lu Wanting, you were awakened when you heard other people calling her name and saying they loved her. And when you see that image in the sky, because this girl occupies a very important position in your heart, you will instinctively rush to the sky and smash the image. At that time, you were still acting on your own instincts, which is why you burst out with such powerful energy and directly broke through the confinement of the seal, forcibly improving your strength a lot. Of course, this is just a guess based on what you just said, but I think it should be similar. Therefore, the way to unlock the seal, I think, is to put a person in an unconscious state, pause his thoughts, and then use something to stimulate him. He should be able to make the seal disappear from this person's body. But this method should be difficult. First of all, it is impossible for a human being to enter an unconscious state by himself. It is possible if it is a zombie. Then, the person used to stimulate him must be a person who is more important to him, at least. He is willing to fight for him, that's all. Hearing what Chris said, Wang Feng's heart moved and he looked at Xiao Wu. Everyone else saw Wang Feng's actions and all looked at Xiao Wu. Then, everyone suddenly realized. Although Chris's analysis has not been confirmed, everyone now feels that it is very possible. The seal in Xiao Wu's body is now broken, and his condition at that time is consistent with Chris's final conclusion. Almost identical. First, he lost his consciousness and turned into a creature like a zombie because he used the potion Wang Feng gave him. Then, when Xiao Wen died, his consciousness was awakened. Originally, everyone thought that Xiao Wu had the feeling after Xiao Wen died. Now it seems that Xiao Wu knew it when Xiao Wen was in the most critical moment. Xiao Wu's consciousness had just returned at that time, and he was definitely still unconscious, but because they were twin brothers, he sensed that his brother was in danger, so he instinctively wanted to save Xiao Wu, and the seal in his body should have been released at that time. When Wang Feng arrived at Xiao, he thought of Xiao's experience and basically agreed with Chris's inference. However, he still had some doubts. Seeing that Chris seemed to have finished speaking, Wang Feng asked, "Chris, have you ever thought about who put the seal on us humans? There are two possibilities for this. One is the creature that forced us to escape to this planet, and the other is us humans." Chris's words were shocking. "What?" Wang Feng asked in disbelief. "The creatures that forced us to come to this planet? Aren't we the native creatures of this planet?" "Of course not." Chris shook his head and said, "I am an expert in human genetics. I had this suspicion long before the end of the world. The reasons are naturally the same." Chris said, pointing to the papers on the table with messy lines and symbols. "I think you all know that the genetic chain of humans is similar to the genetic chain of animals, basically within a few to more than 10%. However, I discovered a more interesting thing. The front of the gene chain, So it may not be easy for you to understand. Let me try another way." Chris picked up the notebook and pen, and after writing on it for a while, he put the notebook on the table again. Everyone gathered around to take a look. There were many long numbers on it. "Suppose this is the gene chain. The first few lines are from the animals I mentioned earlier, and the last one is from humans. The genes of other organisms on the planet are also subtly different, just as humans are not identical to other animals. But I found that although the difference in gene chain from other animals has always been a few percent, no one has ever cared about the different positions in the gene chain. Look at the gene chains in the first few rows. Do you see those numbers? What are the differences? Other animals have different numbers at the end. But compared with them, humans have different numbers at the beginning. After all, girls are attentive, and Lu Wanting was the first to discover something was wrong." "Correct answer." Chris snapped his fingers excitedly. What he is talking about now is a topic he has been studying all his life. However, before the end of the world, it was too shocking, so it was banned from publication. Now he finally has an audience. I think the beginning of the gene chain should represent the gene chain of this planet and the identity of this creature. I specially asked experts in biogenetics to help me list the gene chains of all known creatures. Finally, I discovered that, except for humans, the first half of the gene chain of all other creatures is the same. Even if a dog is compared with a fish, the first half of their gene chain is exactly the same. The difference in the gene chain of all living things is in the second half of the gene chain. Only humans are different. I think that this gene chain is actually the same as our identity code. The number in front represents where you are from. The front of the gene chain of other organisms is the same, which means that they are all native creatures of this planet. And the difference between us humans can only mean that we are outsiders. This, apart from the gene chain, is there anything else that can be proven?" Duan Lei asked with a frown. "Of course there is. Since I discovered this problem, although our country did not allow me to publish the research results or continue the research, I still continued secretly. I'll just say the most obvious one. Think about it, what's the biggest difference between us and the creatures on this planet? Apart from our intelligence. We need to wear clothes to keep out the cold, and we are the only ones on this planet who need foreign objects to resist the natural temperature of this planet. Because we are outsiders, this is not where we grew up, so this phenomenon occurs. Don't tell me that humans evolved from monkeys. In terms of body coordination, any monkey is far superior to humans. Remove the tail that can assist climbing and balance the body, remove the hair that can protect the cold, and replace it with clothing. The flexible body becomes more bulky and can't even climb trees. I don't think this is evolution. Also, can any of you tell me, if we humans have evolved, what is the hair used for? An arcecum, since even the tail has evolved, why haven't these useless things evolved? You don't tell me that when humans evolved, they kept their hair because of their appearance, and because some doctors had to remove the appendix for patients with appendicitis to eat, so they kept their appendix. Especially our hair, which is not only useless, but also continuously consumes nutrients from our body to keep growing. I'm sure that in the environment we originally lived in, our hair must have had its own specific function. Maybe you will say that what we evolved is intelligence, but I would like to ask, a long time ago, human scientists discovered that the human brain has not been fully developed, and the usage rate is only about 10%. Can any of you tell me if your existing brain will evolve before it is fully developed? On this planet, all creatures have their own living environment. The 4 continents have their own unique creatures. Only we humans can live anywhere. In other words, there is no completely suitable environment on this planet. The environment in which we humans live is why we feel the same everywhere. If it's too hot, we will feel uncomfortable, and we may even die from heat stroke. If it's too cold, let alone we will freeze to death. Can you find this shortcoming in other creatures on this planet? So my conclusion is, human beings actually migrated to this planet collectively from other places and are not the original owners of this planet. After Chris finished speaking, the club fell into a dead silence, because Chris' theory was really shocking. Doomsday thought for a while, then suddenly raised his head, looked at Wang Feng, and then said 3 words. Kali tribe. Wang Feng suddenly realized that the Kali tribe was the same race as Sang Xiao and the others. Their planet was invaded by the Devourer, so Sang Xiao and the others escaped here. Now they are cooperating with Wang Feng and the others because the Devourer is chasing after them. They want to use human power to fight against the Devourer. If there were no Devourers chasing after them, with their ability to launch the apocalyptic skyfire, they would be capable of wiping out mankind, and they could even use force to rule mankind. So in the past tens of thousands of years, when they have taken root here, will there still be people from the Kali tribe who know that they were not originally creatures of this planet? Thinking of this, Wang Feng suddenly thought of an evidence that could almost completely confirm this statement, and his face suddenly turned pale. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 626. Wang Feng was now able to confirm that Chris's suspicion was definitely true, because he suddenly remembered the mastermind behind Devourer. Regardless of whether the seal in the human body is set by humans themselves or by the mastermind behind it, at least one thing is certain, that is, the mastermind must know human beings very well. Since he knows so much, of course he has seen humans. Where did he see them? If it was their planet, would he still need Devourer to find it? It can't be that their planet suddenly had a convulsion, moved in the universe, and came here from other places, right? Wang Feng looked at Doomsday, and Doomsday also looked at Wang Feng. Judging from the expressions on Doomsday's faces, it was obvious that he also realized this. What's wrong with you? Lu Wanting couldn't help but ask when she saw Wang Feng and Doomsday looking at each other with ugly expressions. I think Chris is right. We are indeed outsiders. This planet did not originally belong to humans. Wang Feng sighed and said. Now I just don't know if our original planet is still there, and whether there are other planets where we humans can survive. Seeing that the others didn't seem to understand the key point, Wang Feng softly said what he had just thought of. After his reminder, everyone also understood, and everyone's face turned ugly. After all, they have been living on this planet since they were born. Although the environment and climate are not very comfortable as Chris just said, they have long been used to it, and they regard themselves as the masters of this planet as a matter of course. Now they suddenly discovered that they were just passers-by, a wandering race who had been driven out of their homeland. What was even more miserable was that they didn't even know the name of their hometown. Why, there is no record of this in the records of human history. Could it be that the first batch of humans who fled here never thought that one day their descendants would be able to return to their home planet? After a long time, Shen Yishan asked with difficulty. Hearing Shen Yishan's words, Duan Lei suddenly looked at Chris and asked. Chris, you just said that the seal may have been set by humans themselves. Why do you have this idea? Chris looked at Duan Lei blankly. Although he had already had this conjecture, when his conjecture was finally confirmed, instead of being excited, he felt a little disappointed. Looking at Chris's appearance, Duan Lei couldn't help but repeat his question again. This. Chris still didn't seem to have fully recovered, and after trying hard to recall, he said. Didn't I already guess that humans do not belong to this planet? And I still believe in my theory. After I discovered the seal in the human body, it further confirmed my previous guess. This seal in our body is very troublesome, and it is related to human genes. In other words, as long as a human has this seal, his descendants will also have it. Having said this, Chris pointed at Wang Feng and said. For example, you have broken the seal now, so your descendants should not have a seal in their bodies, but since she has a seal, the children you have with her will still have a seal in their bodies. Because your offspring will have genes from both of you at the same time, they will inherit his mother's seal. It's not that easy to place such a troublesome seal in a person's body. If it's an enemy, just kill the person you catch. Why go to all the trouble to do this? And you just said that there is some kind of mysterious creature that is looking for us now. If this kind of creature sets a seal for humans, then lets him go, and then searches for us all over the universe. If humans are really defeated by such a creature, then I have nothing to say. That's why I feel that the seal was set by us humans after we arrived on this planet and felt that we had gotten rid of the enemy. As for the reason, I don't want to say because it's quite frustrating. Speaking of this, Chris shook his head. Duan Lei also smiled helplessly, then looked at Wang Feng and others who still didn't understand and said. What Chris means is that when humans sealed themselves, it was probably because, the enemies that forced humans to leave their homes and fled here were too powerful, and they were too powerful to fight against them. That's why humans at that time set the seal in their own genes to suppress the abilities of their offspring. Because the enemy is powerful, are you suppressing your abilities? Wang Feng still hasn't figured it out. The stronger the enemy, he should work hard to make himself stronger. Why should he seal his own strength and make himself weaker? What's the point? Yes. That's it. Think about it, the first batch of humans who arrived here didn't leave any information on their enemies, because they knew that with the power of humans, they might never be able to resist our enemies. Because if this is not the case, they should record the information of human enemies in detail and leave it to their descendants, in the hope that one day, their descendants can avenge themselves. Return to their own homeland. There is no such information at all in our human historical records. This only shows that the enemy of mankind is too powerful, so powerful that it made the humans who fled here despair. That's why they sealed their descendants, hoping that this way their enemies would never find their descendants, and humanity would be able to continue on this planet forever. Because since they can leave their homes and arrive here, it means that they have the ability to travel far in the universe, whether they use technology or their own abilities. Since they can achieve this, then as their descendants, we can also do it. In fact, before the end of the world, human beings were already exploring space. Although they can only reach the planet closest to them, they have at least begun to move outward. Exploration. If we hadn't been sealed, perhaps human footprints would have spread all over the universe. In that case, our enemies would have come to our door long ago. Enemies that even our ancestors couldn't fight against, we were unprepared for. If you meet him next time, you can imagine the result. This. Maybe this is the real reason why that mysterious seal appears in our human bodies. Then, do we still need to unlock the seal? Lu Wanting asked softly. Of course we have to untie it, and we have to find a way as soon as possible. Wang Feng replied firmly. If this guess is true, then the enemy that humans feared at the beginning has already found us, so it is completely useless for us to keep this seal. If this guess is wrong and the seal was left by our enemies, then there is no need to keep this seal. No matter which one it is. Anyway, we have no retreat now. Let's just break the seal. No matter how powerful the enemy is, as long as you dare to fight them, there is always a possibility of victory. The madman is right. Unlock the seal and go with them. Lu Qiang also said. Okay. Unlock the seal. Yes. Unlock the seal. Wang Feng seemed to arouse the fighting spirit of these people again. For a while, everyone in the club agreed to unlock the seal. Even Xiao Wu, who had already unlocked the seal, joined in the fun and shouted to unlock the seal. Everyone. Chris suddenly interrupted their shouts of unsealing, and said with a strange look on his face. I don't mean to hit you, but, are you sure you have found a way to unlock the seal? After hearing Chris' words, everyone present's originally excited expressions froze on their faces. Yes. You haven't found a way yet, so what are you yelling about? Isn't this a disease? Although Chris mentioned a method to unlock the seal before, that method is too difficult, right? First, he must be able to make himself into an unconscious state, and then he must find a person who is more important than him in his heart to threaten him. Only in this way will there be a chance that this person will unlock the seal in the body. Let's not talk about the success rate of this. Let's just say that there are only 40 days. How many people can be unlocked with this method? Unless a large-scale solution can be found, like Wang Feng's potion, it will be possible to unlock the seals in the bodies of everyone in the Hope Base in just 40 days. Moreover, even if the seals in these people's bodies can be unlocked, there will not be so much life energy to enhance their strength by then. Now Wang Feng feels a little regretful. He should not have directly promised to improve everyone's strength just now. By the way, Chris, didn't you say before that you need a primate mutant beast to try to unlock this seal? Let's catch this mutant beast, and then see if you can find a way to find another one. A way to break the seal. Wang Feng's eyes suddenly lit up, he looked at Chris and said. Never used it? I used primate mutant beasts just to try the method I just mentioned, because I had thought of this before, and now that it has been verified, there is no need to study it anymore. Chris' words were like a scoop of cold water, extinguishing Wang Feng's last glimmer of hope. I have an idea, maybe it can solve this problem. Li Yingning, who had been silent all this time, suddenly spoke. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 627. As soon as Li Yingning's words came out, everyone's eyes immediately fell on him, because Li Yingning rarely spoke, but once he spoke, he would be certain, so even if Li Yingning said maybe, that was at least the same. There is more than 80% certainty. Instructor. What method is it? Wang Feng asked. Actually, it's not a method, but I think there is a place that maybe you should go to. Li Yingning showed a rare hesitant expression. It's the underwater passage where you get the core of life. I've been to the end of it. It's a portal, but I tried all my methods and couldn't open it. There may be what was left by the first humans who came to this planet. There may be a way to unlock the seal. But I don't know if you can open that portal. Hiss. Everyone present took a breath of air. What kind of strength does Li Yingning have? Who could have left the door that even he couldn't open? Thinking back to the previous speculation, maybe it is really like what Li Yingning said, that is where the earliest human beings who arrived on this planet stayed. Okay. I'm going, tomorrow morning. Wang Feng originally wanted to go right away, but when he saw Lu Wanting next to him, he changed his mind to tomorrow. Although Lu Wanting wouldn't say anything even if he went now, Wang Feng himself also wanted to spend more time with Lu Wanting. Especially the underwater passage, whether the door can be opened or not, the journey to that portal alone will not be easy. Traveling in that dark and narrow underwater passage was no different from being imprisoned in a small, airtight black room. Li Yingning nodded, and then said, "That door is a bit weird. I tried to force it open, but I was attacked immediately. So after you pass by, don't use brute force and think of a way. I think if it is left by you humans to your descendants, then it must be there are unique ways for you humans to open that door. If you really can't open it, don't force it. Just come back. I almost stayed there if I tried hard. If it weren't for my special physique, I probably wouldn't be able to get out." Hearing this, everyone was even more shocked. If it was as terrifying as Li Yingning said, and even he almost stayed, then if Wang Feng forced the door open, needless to say, he would definitely die there. Lu Wanting also looked at Wang Feng worriedly, but she did not persuade Wang Feng not to go. She knew Wang Feng very well and knew that the trip was a foregone conclusion, so at most she could only tell him to be careful. "Don't worry. I won't take any chances." Wang Feng looked at Lu Wanting and solemnly promised. Then, Wang Feng turned to look at Duan Lei. "Liza, just put off the matter of distributing the potion until I come back. If there is really a way to get in, maybe things will turn around. If we can unlock the seal in large quantities, we won't be able to promote those people. The strength. Don't worry. Just leave this to me." Duan Lei nodded and said, he also knew that if the seal could be unlocked in large numbers, then the guardian warriors who had unlocked the seal would need to improve their strength even more, which was much better than the improvement of the whole people. At least, the current guardian warriors have the power to compete with the devourer. If their strength is improved again, it will of course be even more difficult. However, the devourer is not their last enemy yet. As for who the final enemy is, presumably if Wang Feng can enter that portal, he will be able to get the answer. Therefore, Wang Feng's current choice is right. At least he must try that door first before he can know what they should choose next. "Xiao Feng. Give me No 7's location on Nanzhou continent. I'll go take a look and find a way to bring him back." Li Yingning looked at Wang Feng and said, "You don't need to worry about number 7. I think I have a way to rescue him, and I may also be able to delay the opening of the wormhole for a while. It's just that I haven't seen the wormhole now. I can't guarantee how long it can be delayed, but it should be around 10 to 20 days. Just put your energy here." "Yes. Thank you, instructor." Wang Feng's eyes flashed with gratitude. After all, number 7 was left there to save himself. If Li Yingning could really save him, it would be a relief for him. "No need to thank you. Speaking of which, this number 7 is also a member of my clan after all," Li Yingning said lightly. Wang Feng took out the tablet from the apocalypse space, then marked the location of the wormhole on the map, and handed the tablet to Li Yingning. "Remember my words, no matter what, do not force the door open." Li Yingning warned Wang Feng one last time, then turned and walked out of the club. Seeing what he meant, he was preparing to leave for Nanzhou continent immediately. Wang Feng solemnly nodded in agreement. Li Yingning had never told him twice about the same thing before. This situation will happen this time. It is obvious that Li Yingning also has lingering fears about it, so Wang Feng will definitely be careful and careful again. "Instructor. Those two mutated beasts on the seaside of Jianguan town, a shark and a whale, belong to us. Don't kill them." Wang Feng suddenly remembered that there were still those two guys in Jianguan town. Although he should tell them not to attack as long as they were human beings, who knew whether Li Yingning would take the initiative to kill these two guys. Li Yingning didn't respond at all and just left. Wang Feng shrugged his shoulders. Fortunately, everyone knew Li Yingning's temper, so they were not surprised. As for how Li Yingning crossed the sea, that's not what Wang Feng needs to worry about. The Devourers must have their own way to cross the vast sea. Otherwise, how could those Devourers get to the south if even their spaceships were destroyed by Wang Feng? From mainland China? Crazy. That's what we do. After Li Yingning left, Du Enlai was the first to speak. The things we discussed before, except for the distribution of medicines, other things remain unchanged. Lao Lu and the others still need to be recalled immediately, and blood samples must be collected first. The door outside the first one really cannot be opened. We still need all the people to be soldiers. Wang Feng nodded and said. Let's do it this way. Anyway, we have enough people, so let's collect the blood samples first. If it really doesn't work, it can save some time. By the way, what about those people in Tiandu City base? Du Enlai suddenly remembered and asked again. What do the survivors on their side think of them? Wang Feng frowned and asked. Not so good. It is estimated that if all those survivors become awakened, and there is no threat from the Devourers, they will go directly to their Tiandu City base and kill them all. Du Enlai shook his head and said. The survivors in Tiandu City have been here for some time. Du Enlai naturally knows a little about the situation in the base there. Then ignore them. No matter what statement they bring when they come next time, they will say that I left again. Let them go back and wait for the news. Wang Feng snorted coldly. Good. Du Enlai would naturally not object to Wang Feng's decision. In fact, after learning about the situation at Tiandu City base, Du Enlai had already regretted it in his heart. We had reached an agreement with them before. One wanted to take in some survivors, and the other naturally didn't know much about them. Now that he knew who they were, he naturally didn't want to waste precious awakening potions on them anymore. Even if Wang Feng said he wanted to give them medicine just now, Du Enlai would directly object. After looking at the people around him, Du Enlai asked. Is everyone okay? Everyone shook their heads. That's it? That's it for tonight. It's almost dawn until dawn. Everyone, hurry up and go back and have a rest. Meet here early in the morning and I'll assign the work. Du Enlai waved his hand to signal everyone to disperse, then looked at Wang Feng and Lu Wanting, and said with a bad smile. We can still take a break, Madman and Ting Ting, I guess they have to work overtime. I won't agree to the calculation of this overtime pay, ha 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 ha. Du Enlai's words caused a burst of laughter from everyone, and then, amid the laughter, everyone slowly dispersed, and Lu Wanting directly pulled Wang Feng and ran upstairs. Wang Feng was about to leave again, and he was going to a dangerous place where even Li Yingning almost died. Although Wang Feng promised not to force the door open, who knows whether that door's understanding of force is the same as that of humans. If Wang Feng just touches it lightly, does it think it is indecent? If you want to open the door, you have to make contact, right? So Lu Wanting was still quite worried, but she also knew that it was irreversible, so of course she would cherish this only a few hours more. Seeing Lu Wanting pulling Wang Feng away, the evil smile on Du Enlai's face disappeared. He sighed softly at the backs of the two of them. The madman will come back. Every time he leaves, he will experience countless dangers, but he will come back every time, and always at the most critical moment. Shen Yishan came behind Du Enlai, gently held his hand and said. Ha ha. If that's the case, I hope he won't control time so well next time. Du Enlai smiled bitterly. After arriving in the room, Wang Feng just said he was going to take a shower when Lu Wanting roughly pulled him back. It's only been a few hours, and you still want to take a shower? Don't take this opportunity to be lazy. I tell you, you won't even have a second to rest. Humph. You stinky girl. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Wang Feng roared, then quickly tore off his clothes and threw Lu Wanting onto the bed. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 628. The next afternoon, the Hope Base was quiet and peaceful. Because Wang Feng gave all the survivors except the soldiers a day off yesterday, these survivors had a rare day off. Although they had rested before, as long as they finished their work, the Hope Base would not care where they went. But before, they just wandered around their residences casually. Because there were too many people, everyone was not familiar with each other. However, because Wang Feng returned strongly yesterday and stayed in the air for such a long time, all the survivors of the Hope Base knew that the leader of their base was actually a Superman who could fly freely in the sky. Although Wang Feng was not interested in wearing his underwear outside, he would not tie a cape on his back that was useless except for being cool and having fun. And it was impossible for Wang Feng to fly freely in the air. Even if he stayed, it would consume a lot of physical strength. However, rumors are always exaggerated, and now in the Hope Base, a very interesting phenomenon is that everyone basically witnessed what happened yesterday. However, after hearing others talking about how powerful their leader was, how he jumped up and down in the sky, and how he threw several troublemakers into the sky and beat them violently. Even yesterday, a group of flying mutant beasts flew over, but his leader waved his sleeves lightly, and the group of flying mutant beasts were like clouds, and all were waved away by the leader. The survivors who witnessed everything last night still listened with shining eyes, and nodded repeatedly, exclaiming that they must have been dazzled by the fireworks yesterday, so that they did not see such a wonderful scene, and they believed it. In fact, this is not surprising. These survivors have experienced too much suffering in this doomsday. Now they have finally found a safe and stable base. Deep in their hearts, they long for this base to have a strong defense force that can guarantee their safety. And a super powerful leader is the most reliable guarantee of this base, so they would rather deceive themselves and believe that they have seen it wrong, but they must let this leader exist at least in their hearts. Wang Feng didn't know that there were already hundreds of versions of the Hope Base where he had fought a shocking battle yesterday, and no matter which one, the survivors believed it without a doubt, because it was obvious that the more such leaders there were, the more their safety could be guaranteed. But even if he knew, Wang Feng had no time to correct this, because he was about to set off to the underwater passage that almost made him mentally collapse. Originally, he was going to set off early in the morning, but because of the fierce battle with Lu Wanting, and because he knew that the underwater cave was a test for the spirit, Wang Feng decided to have a good sleep before setting off. Anyway, the underwater cave was in the Black Dragon River, which was equivalent to being at the doorstep of the Hope Base, and it wouldn't take much time to get there. After making sufficient preparations, Wang Feng finally said goodbye to everyone and headed towards the Black Dragon Bridge, ready to start his underwater journey. Duanlei and Lu Wanting only sent Wang Feng to the gate of the Green Water Garden. Although the Black Dragon Bridge was not far away, there was no point in sending him there. On the contrary, if Lu Wanting saw Wang Feng enter the Black Dragon River with her own eyes, it would only increase her worries, so Wang Feng insisted on going to the Black Dragon Bridge alone, without even a car. When he arrived at the Black Dragon Bridge, Wang Feng looked at the turbulent river below, without any hesitation, and jumped directly under the watchful eyes of several Black Dragon Bridge guards. This time, Wang Feng did not prepare the rope needed for coming up first like before, because on the way here, Wang Feng had found a place where no one was and tried his flying ability. Wang Feng found that he could indeed stay in the air, but he had no way to control his body to move in different directions in the air. All he could do was to temporarily get rid of gravity and float in the air. He could do it straight up and down, but it would consume a lot of physical strength. Wang Feng estimated that even if he used the instant recovery of Tiankai, he could only float in the air for about half an hour. Obviously, this new ability should not be very useful in actual combat, but at least, when Wang Feng came out of the underwater passage below, he could rely on his own ability to come up without using a rope, so it was not completely useless. Moreover, although Wang Feng could only control his body and rise or fall straight up when he was in the air, he could still set his goal in advance when he took off. In short, Wang Feng was still a little happy about this ability. At least I will never fall to death in the future. That's what Wang Feng thought in his heart. After entering the river, Wang Feng came to the place where he had fought with the turtle before, and he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Thinking back to when the turtle appeared in front of him, if it hadn't been tampered with by the Kali people in advance, I'm afraid that even if the turtle didn't move there, he wouldn't be able to kill it. And now, Wang Feng is sure that if another turtle with the same strength as the previous one appears, and it is restored to its peak state without any control, Wang Feng will probably be able to kill it instantly. But unfortunately, Wang Feng's strength is getting stronger and stronger. From the initial enhancer to the current level 7 creature peak, it can be said that zombies can no longer pose any threat to him. But now Wang Feng's enemies are getting stronger and stronger, from ordinary zombies to enhanced zombies, and now they have even drilled out the Devourer, and he also knows that there are more terrible enemies waiting for him behind the Devourer. Damn it! Come on! No matter how powerful the enemy is, it is just a grindstone for me to become stronger. Wang Feng shouted with great excitement, but it was a pity that he was in the water now, so such heroic words turned into a series of beep 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 bubbles after coming out, which was a bit less heroic. After shaking his head in frustration, Wang Feng took out an oxygen tank and put it in his mouth, then he dived into the underwater passage. Since he had experience before, Wang Feng was familiar with the passage and moved very fast. In this underwater passage, the most worrying thing is not the exhaustion of physical strength, but the loneliness of moving forward in a narrow and silent passage with no creatures except himself for several days. Wang Feng almost had a mental breakdown when he got the life core last time, and the location of the life core, according to instructor Li Yingning, is only in the center of the passage. In other words, the time Wang Feng has to go through this time is longer than last time. Although his strength has improved and his speed has increased a lot, it is definitely not twice as fast as last time. Wang Feng originally wanted to find someone to accompany him down. Xiao Wu or Qiu Jian are both suitable for this role. Although he can't chat in the water, it is much better to have a companion by his side than to go down alone. Moreover, Xiao Wu and the others had proposed to follow Wang Feng down, but Wang Feng gave up the idea when he thought of the instructor's expression when he repeatedly reminded him. The danger level of that door could make Li Yingning afraid, so he decided not to drag others along. In addition, if something unexpected happened to him, at least Qiu Jian and the others were also high-end combat forces of the Hope Base, and they could also play a big role. Moreover, before leaving, Wang Feng asked Xiao Wu and Qiu Jian to go directly to the beach, find whales and great white sharks, and take them out to sea to hunt mutant beasts. Now Chris no longer needs mutant beasts, so they don't have to look for primate mutant beasts specifically, there are more mutant beasts in the sea. Moreover, compared with Wang Feng's potion, the life energy provided by those mutant beasts to Xiao Wu and the others is obviously more suitable for their promotion. Therefore, during this period, the only task of Xiao Wu, Qingxuan, Qianqian, and the others is to improve their strength, without worrying about other things. As for Lu Feng and his team, they will stay at the Hope Base and wait for him to return. No matter what the situation is, they can make a quick decision without wasting any time. Now what Wang Feng and his team need most is time. Although Li Yingning said that the time for the wormhole to form can be pushed back a little, Wang Feng estimated that the 10 to 20 days would only be enough for him to open the door this time. When Wang Feng swam to the place where he fought with the mutant fish last time, he finally got some time to rest, because all he saw along the way was an endless tunnel extending forward. And here, he had spent a lot of effort and dug a lot of pits, so for him, the scenery in front of him finally changed. After staying here for a while and eating something, Wang Feng started his journey again. It must be said that Li Yingning's judgment of distance is still quite accurate. The time it took Wang Feng to swim from the location where he got the life core to the end of the channel was actually almost the same as the time it took him to get the life core from the entrance of the channel. Shining the flashlight at the door at the end of the passage, Wang Feng took a deep breath, then put away the oxygen tank and carefully approached the door. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 629. This door is at the end of the underwater passage. There are traces of excavation on the wall of the passage around the door. It seems that it should be the work of instructor Li Yingning. Under the illumination of the flashlight, the door gave off a faint halo, and it was impossible to tell what material it was made of. But obviously now Wang Feng has no intention to care about the material of the door. With the instructor's repeated warnings, even if the door is made of paper, Wang Feng will never dare to break it directly. Slowly arriving in front of the door, Wang Feng hesitated for a moment and did not reach out to touch the door rashly. Instead, he observed it carefully for a while. However, after looking at it for a long time, Wang Feng didn't get any clue. This door fit perfectly. If it weren't for its shape, no one would even think of it as a door. There's no handle, no keyhole, how the hell do you open it? But after thinking about Li Yingning's previous guesses about this place, Wang Feng raised his hand, then summoned Tiankai, and drew a stroke on his hand. A cloud of blood mist suddenly rose in his palm and filled the water. Come on. When the blood mist came into contact with the door, Wang Feng could clearly see that the door began to absorb the blood in the water and began to emit a strange white light. Wang Feng turned off his flashlight and let himself bathe in the soft white light. The white light was very bright. Even if he turned off the flashlight, the passage was still as bright as day, but the white light was not dazzling at all. Extremely bright but quite soft, this seemingly contradictory adjective seems to be the most suitable to describe this white light. The white light continued to get brighter, and the blood mist in the water seemed to be drawn by something, rushing towards the door. Seeing this strange phenomenon, Wang Feng couldn't help but cheer up. At least this door reacted to his own blood, which was a good thing. Maybe this place was really left by the first batch of humans who arrived here. However, considering that the recorded history of mankind alone is more than 20,000 years old, this mysterious portal has not been discovered for such a long time. How was it hidden? Humanity's technology is advancing with each passing day, and now the entire planet is no longer a secret to humans. From the mountains with an altitude of 10,000 meters to the trenches with an altitude of 10,000 meters, human footprints have been left behind. It can be said that in the eyes of humans, this world has no secrets for humans. But this portal has been quietly staying under the water for tens of thousands of years. No radar or other survey equipment can detect it. If Li Yingning hadn't mentioned it, I'm afraid it would have remained silent here until the destruction of this planet. Watching his blood being absorbed by the door nervously, Wang Feng began to feel that this process was the door testing whether the visitor was qualified to pass through the door. The white light continued to shine, perhaps because it had been silent for too long, so the process was a bit slow. It lasted for about 5 minutes, and the light from the door began to change. From gradually increasing to gradually weakening, Wang Feng opened his eyes wide and watched intently. This phenomenon should mean that the detection process has ended. Will this door be opened for him? The white light became weaker and weaker, and finally disappeared completely, and the surroundings entered darkness again. After waiting quietly for a while, Wang Feng found that there was no movement, so Wang Feng took out the flashlight and turned it on again, and the door appeared in his sight again. Nothing has changed. The door is still quietly embedded at the end of the passage, and the surrounding water has become clear again, as if everything that just appeared was just an illusion. Wang Feng couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. No matter whether we go or walk, can you at least express it? There is no response now, so what should I do next? Wang Feng frowned. Could it be that the blood just wasn't enough? Raising his left hand, Wang Feng secretly thought that due to his strong recovery ability, the wound he had just cut with Tiankai had completely healed, leaving not even a trace. Wang Feng gritted his teeth, since it had no effect. Then just let out a little more blood. At least it absorbed this just now. At worst, if it continues, I don't believe it won't react. After summoning Tiankai, Wang Feng was about to cut his left palm again when a wave of energy suddenly surged out of the portal. Wang Feng was caught off guard and had no time to react before he was enveloped by the energy. However, this energy did not cause any harm to Wang Feng. Instead, it made him feel quite comfortable, and there was an inexplicable sense of familiarity and intimacy, just like the feeling of a fetus soaked in amniotic fluid. After this energy enveloped Wang Feng, it continued to push behind him, blocking all the river water and causing a small vacuum zone to appear in front of the door. Buzz. With a slight buzzing sound, the door lit up again, and then, in front of Wang Feng, a three-dimensional image formed by condensed light beams. What this image condenses is a human being. Although the white clothes on his body look very weird in Wang Feng's eyes, no matter how you look at it, he is still a human being. The only difference may be his hair, which is very long. Although it seems that his gender should be male, he still has hair that can reach his waist. And his hair was just like that, without any restraint, and it fluttered behind him without wind. For some reason, even if this person was just a video, Wang Feng could feel that these hairs seemed to be spiritual, which was completely different from the hair of humans now. Since the video appeared, Wang Feng held his breath. He knew that this video might tell him something, and he didn't want to miss even a word. After the video condensed, the man looked forward, and his eyes were not focused on Wang Feng. Wang Feng immediately understood that this should be a kind of recording. After his blood was absorbed by the door, he was activated. Maybe it was because of the long time, so there was some delay. Luckily he came out, otherwise wouldn't he have to bleed himself all the time? Wang Feng thought about it and couldn't help but feel a little lucky. And at this moment, the person suddenly spoke. Hello. My descendant. The opening remarks of this person made Wang Feng a little awkward, but thinking that this guy should be a human from 20,000 years ago, he was calm. Since you can see the image I left, it means that you are a human who has reached at least level 7 and did not try to open the door with violence. Of course, you may have used this method but got injured or died, and your blood activated the image I left. If it is the latter and you are dead, I am sorry, because once this image is activated, it can only be played once. I don't know what your purpose is in coming here. I just hope that the human race has not encountered a mysterious and powerful enemy now. If you are still alive and you don't understand what I am saying, then this would be a good thing. If you understand, alas. The man sighed, and then said. Anyway, since you have activated this image, you are qualified to know the origin of our human race and our glorious history. Next, the image you will see is our mother planet, the galaxy where the mother planet is located, and the most glorious time of our human race. After the man finished speaking, he slowly became illusory, and then a magnificent picture appeared in front of Wang Feng. This image is very strange. Although Wang Feng is now in this narrow cave underwater, when the image appears, Wang Feng seems to have entered outer space directly, and the vast, ethereal, and silent universe is around him. In front of Wang Feng is a huge, blue, and beautiful planet. For some reason, Wang Feng, who has never seen this planet, actually feels like crying at this moment, as if he is quite familiar with this planet. Even if it is just an image, Wang Feng can still feel the call of this planet to him, just like a loving mother calling a wanderer in the distance. A strong attachment can't be stopped from Wang Feng's heart. Countless spaceships are constantly flying in and out of this planet, making this beautiful planet like a beehive. After the camera has been on this planet for a while, the planet quickly becomes larger, and this is the camera zooming in rapidly. Then, Wang Feng saw the vast ocean, magnificent continents, prosperous cities, and towering mountains in the interior of the planet, all of which quickly passed in front of the camera. Finally, Wang Feng followed the camera into a building made of unknown materials. In an empty and huge room, there were countless instruments and screens. A group of people dressed similarly to the man just now were busy inside. What surprised Wang Feng was that there were no buttons or keys on the operating panels of those instruments. There were only countless densely packed light spots as big as sesame seeds. When Wang Feng saw a person standing in front of the instrument to operate, the shock in his heart was simply beyond description. This person held something similar to a tablet in his hands, looking at the tablet in his hands for a while, and then looking up at the big screen in front of him. And his long hair was flying in the air at this time, constantly clicking on the tablet and the operating panel of the instrument. It turned out that human hair actually has the same function as hands, and the light spots on the operating panels of the instruments are buttons operated by hair. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 630. Then, the camera took Wang Feng around the planet for a long time. Wang Feng saw many animals and plants, as well as fragments of human life. After that, Wang Feng left the planet and went to other planets in the galaxy to look around. There were hundreds of planets with human inhabitants. Wang Feng could not imagine that humans would have such a glorious history. Hundreds of life planets are the territories of human life. How huge would the human race be at that time? No wonder the man just called himself a human race and said that he should know the origin and past glory of the human race. There is no doubt that the planet that Wang Feng arrived at first should be the home planet of humans, not only because the camera stayed on that planet the longest, but also because Wang Feng himself felt the call and familiarity of that planet, and even attachment. And the camera did not stay too long on the planets that passed by later, but just shook around each planet and left, as if just to let the viewer know that this planet also belongs to our human race. Then, the camera began to zoom out, and all the planets began to shrink, so the entire galaxy appeared in front of Wang Feng. Even before the end of the world, Wang Feng had never been to outer space, so now Wang Feng was in a very excited mood. Not only did he see the mother planet that might be the origin of mankind, but he also seemed to be in the vast universe, especially now that the entire galaxy was in front of him. Looking at this galaxy ruled by humans in front of him, Wang Feng suddenly felt that he wanted to yell and vent his emotions wantonly. Then, the time of the image began to accelerate, and the rotation of the galaxy became very fast. In front of Wang Feng, it seemed as if there was a huge vortex, and occasionally there were comets and other celestial bodies that passed quickly in the universe. The acceleration of time lasted for a while. Because there was no research on this aspect, and it was not known what speed a galaxy would rotate normally, Wang Feng did not know how many years had passed in this galaxy during this accelerated time. The flow of time began to return to normal, but the camera's perspective did not switch. However, Wang Feng found that in this galaxy, the communication between the inhabited planets became closer, and there were constantly spaceships flying between the planets. Then, Wang Feng noticed that in the distance of the galaxy, a huge space fleet was flying towards this galaxy, and at the same time, the takeoff and landing of the spaceships in the galaxy became more frequent. That huge space fleet was composed of thousands of space battleships, some large and some small. The largest was nearly 10 kilometers long, and even the smallest was more than 1 kilometer long. And the humans in the galaxy had obviously discovered this fleet a long time ago. The frequent takeoff and landing of those spaceships before should be preparations for the upcoming war. As the huge fleet got closer and closer, countless warships finally flew out of the galaxy, forming a fleet in the galaxy, and then flew out of the galaxy to meet the incoming fleet. However, the scale of the human fleet was obviously much smaller than that of the attacking fleet, and it was at a disadvantage in terms of both the number and the size of the battleships. The fierce battle in outer space soon unfolded. Wang Feng had never seen such a grand scene before, and he couldn't help but feel excited. Although the human race's warships were small, they were flexible. They dodged left and right in the rain of energy beams, and at the same time poured fierce artillery fire on the attacking warships. At the same time as the two fleets came into contact, countless small fighters flew out of the warships and rushed towards the opponent's fleet. In terms of hit rate, the human race's warships were much higher than the attacking warships, but the attacking warships seemed to have an energy shield on the hull that could offset the attack of the human race fleet. However, the human race's warships did not have this function. They would often explode directly after being hit once, and they would be torn into pieces. The fragments of the hull flew in all directions with the impact of the explosion. From time to time, small fighters from both sides were hit by the fragments of the warships because they could not dodge in time, and the planes were destroyed and people died. As time went by, the disadvantage of the human fleet became more and more obvious. Since the number of warships lost far exceeded that of the enemy, and the original number was less than that of the enemy, the balance of victory gradually tilted towards the attacking fleet. The human warships, which were at a disadvantage, had no intention of retreating at all, because this attack had already assembled all the human space warships. If they retreated, they would not be able to organize a second fleet to stop them. So once they retreated, the planets behind them would be exposed to the enemy's warships. So, even if they were at a disadvantage, even if they knew that if they persisted, they would be annihilated, not even a small fighter would withdraw from the battle, and all of them were desperately launching the most violent attack on the local fleet. At this time, a small human fighter attracted Wang Feng's attention. It flexibly dodged the energy beams in the sky while crashing into a small space warship. Does he want to use a suicide attack? Wang Feng immediately focused his attention on him. As if they had discovered the small fighter's intention, some nearby enemy small fighters turned to intercept the small fighter that was preparing for a suicide attack. However, the pilot of this small fighter is obviously quite good. He not only evaded the interception of 5 small fighters in a row, but also destroyed 2 of them. After dodging the interception, the small fighter went straight to the hull of the space battleship. This time, although the energy shield of the enemy ship's hull was also in the open state, it did not play its due role, allowing the small fighter to hit its hull. Although these incoming space battleships have that kind of energy shield, they can only protect against that kind of energy artillery fire. It cannot recognize the purely physical attack of the spacecraft, so this situation occurs. However, this small fighter is only a dozen meters long after all, and the battleship it attacked is small, but it is a space battleship of more than 1 kilometer. The small fighter exploded at the moment of collision with the battleship. The pilot inside was naturally dead, but the space battleship he attacked did not explode. However, the place where it was hit seemed to be its power system. So after the collision, it never moved again. The human warships that discovered this would naturally not miss this opportunity. All of a sudden, the sky was full of energy beams, all attacking the space battleship. Because it could not dodge, all the attacks were blocked by the energy shield of the battleship. The originally light blue shield quickly turned red and then disappeared. Then, the battleship was hit by several energy beams and instantly turned into fragments. After discovering this method, it seemed that the small fighters of the human race finally found a way to defeat the enemy, so the same scene began to play out one after another. So, the warships of the attacking fleet began to explode continuously in the crazy suicide attacks of the small fighters of the human race. However, the price of achieving such results was that the small fighters of the human race were rapidly reduced. The scene in front of him made Wang Feng burst into tears. He suddenly remembered that a long time ago, his country was invaded by other countries because of poverty and backwardness. At that time, the enemy soldiers were well equipped, but his side could not even have a gun. When the enemy's tanks and armored vehicles rushed up, their rifles, broadswords, and spears had no effect on this iron lump. So, countless soldiers grabbed cluster grenades, rushed directly to the side of the tanks or armored vehicles, and then detonated them directly. Those soldiers at the beginning used their lives and sacrifices to exchange for the strength of their country now. They almost used knives to cut, spears to stab, and even bit with their teeth. In the end, they protected the people of this country and the dignity of this country. And as a soldier, watching their fighting videos on the day of enlistment has become a routine for soldiers. The situation in front of them is so similar to that time. Those soldiers who drove small fighters are also quite clear that no matter whether their attacks are successful or not, they will definitely go there without returning. But no small fighter avoided the battle, and no soldier left the battlefield because of fear of death. Since the battle began, Wang Feng has not found a small fighter or space battleship that will withdraw from the battle and return to their homeland because of injury or exhaustion of ammunition. Whether in space or on a planet, whether it is an invasion by an alien race or a foreign invasion, on the battlefield of resisting aggression, humans will never lack warriors, will never lack the determination to fight to the death, and will never lack the momentum to fight to the death. Although they fought bravely, they still could not make up for the disadvantage. As the human race launched a suicide attack, the attacking fleet also changed its combat methods, recovered a large number of small fighters, and guarded around the warships. Therefore, after the enemy fleet also changed its tactics, it often required dozens of small fighters to cover each other before one could successfully break through and hit the enemy ship, but due to interference, it often could not accurately hit the firepower system or power system of the warship. As long as these two places were not damaged, the warships that were hit would not completely lose their combat effectiveness, and would still be active on the battlefield under the protection of a large number of small fighters. Due to the huge consumption, it didn't take long for tens of thousands of small fighters of the human race to be lost, and without the cover of small fighters, those space warships were at a complete disadvantage. In the end, some injured warships simply stopped dodging and opened fire at full power, launching their final attack on the opposing fleet before countless energy beams hit them.